Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. Welcome back, Glenn Beck.
Thank
you for making time in your busy schedule to join us.
Can you believe this? You've been producing. You know what we've been doing this week. We've been doing a lot of great stuff that's just around the corner.
Yeah, no, you have. I caught some of it, and I'm really excited to see how it turns out. What's your top story today?
Top story today is the destruction of the left. We're seeing the beginning of it. I outlined it a little bit in my show just a few minutes ago, but I want to delve a little deeper into it.
All right, Stu.
Another way to further that destruction, don't send your kids to college.
Okay. All right, Jason.
The left now has an identity, which is pretty much becoming socialism. Conservatives, we don't really have an identity. And one of the reasons why, and it's pissing me off, is because we can't come together and say, look, some policies are conservative, some aren't. It's very easy. And I have an example of that.
All right, a lot to get into, but first we want to thank our sponsor, American Financing.
American Financing is a company that I've done business with for a very, very long time. And I didn't take them as a client until after 2008 because of the crash. And I didn't believe in any mortgage company. This is the only mortgage company that I endorse in the entire country.
Can I just interrupt you really quickly and point out, I like to take pride in the fact that you are so, transparent about the fact that I'm not going to let any advertiser on here unless I truly believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Just like to point that out.
Thank you. It's, we've done that. GM was my biggest sponsor. General Motors on radio, never happened before. Mm-hmm. They were my biggest sponsor. They took a bailout, and I had to call the chairman of General Motors and say, when you pay that back off, then you can call me and we'll come back on. But that pissed them off so much they never came back. We lost millions of dollars. Yeah. That's fine. I don't care. Anyway, these guys are really good. They're going to get you and find the right loan for you. They don't play any tricks. They don't work for the banks. They work for you. So if you need a new loan, refi, you want a consolidation loan, or you're buying a new house, these are the people, AmericanFinancing.net. Numbers on the screen.
All right, Glenn.
So I'm finding it interesting watching the Jussie Smollett. I got up this morning and I watched Rahm Emanuel for 9 minutes sound like me. And he was on CNN, and Wolf Blitzer was asking pretty reasonable questions. Now, I haven't seen anything that resembles reason on CNN for a very long time. Stu, he's been checking in with the news channels here in the last few hours, and he says, well, they're not, killing him. They are actually coming out and saying, this doesn't seem right, this is wrong.
The tone of the coverage is not pro-Smollett. They must know that he actually did these things. They must have evidence on it, because they are acting as if this is an offense to the community for him being let off because he's a celebrity, rather than in every intersectionality instinct they must have over a story like this.
A little bit of community service doesn't equal, what was it?
No, but
16 hours of community service.
Think about this from a group that, the Covington Catholic School, Donald Trump, they don't care about the truth. They don't care about any of it. Kavanaugh, they didn't care about that. It was an agenda. This guy's agenda matches the social justice agenda. Why is this one different? Now, could be that they're catching on. Or it could be that they're catching on that the people are getting a little tired of this and their credibility is zero and headed to below zero. There's a snowball that is starting, and it hasn't, maybe it's just started to roll. Maybe this is the final push, but it's not. If it's rolling very slowly, but it's rolling in the opposite direction that the left has wanted the snowball to roll in. Let me just go through a couple of things. Trump media, we're all clear, the media is not telling the truth, but here's the important part. There are people who are Democrats around the country who are now starting to say, I'm sick of this. Shut up. Mm-hmm. Shut up. That's huge. That's huge. And it's their arrogance that caused them to not give in and blind to what they're doing. Anti-Semitism, CARE, Muslim Brotherhood. How long have we been talking about CARE and Muslim Brotherhood?
Oh my gosh, since the case came out. What was it, in the late 90s
Yeah,
probably?
I mean, been talking about it forever. Been talking about anti-Semitism and how this is getting worse in Congress. Well, Ilhan Omar has brought this to the forefront, and now people are starting to pay attention. Just barely, but they're starting to pay attention. Another piece of that snowball starting to lean the other way. Socialism. Everybody loves socialism. Yesterday, Mike Lee looked like a comedic genius. Do you know how hard it is for Mike to look funny? And he looked like, I know, and he looked like a comedic genius. And why? Because he just was pointing out the absurdity of all of it. When somebody like Mike can actually make you laugh in the Senate, that's saying something. It's become the theater of the absurd. Ocasio-Cortez, she's overplayed her hand in arrogance. The Green New Deal, socialism, it's overplaying its hand. Social justice, Me Too, Kavanaugh was the moment that snowball started to at least stop going in the direction that they wanted. People looked at that and went, that's not justice. That's not justice. Covington Catholic, the same thing. We became a mobocracy. But that mobocracy, while it's still screaming, it's not gathering any steam. It's stopped in its place. This started with the President of the United States, Obama, saying police acted stupidly. Mm-hmm. And Rahm Emanuel was the chief of staff that had to set up the beer summit. He was defending all of that stuff. Look at Rahm Emanuel today. When you lose Rahm Emanuel, and Rahm Emanuel starts to sound like Glenn Beck, something's happening. And I think this snowball, look at abortion as well, this snowball it stopped gathering steam. And it's starting to lean the other direction. And I think once it starts to really roll, it's going to roll down the hill and it's going to smash. Just as it always does, it's going to smash the progressive and postmodernist movement to pieces.
Did we just get some optimism from Glenn?
Look at that.
I think so, yeah.
Nice.
Gosh,
Yeah.
mark it down in the books, guys.
I will tell you, we have a lot of bad things coming our way, hard things coming our way, really hard things coming our way. But I think that there is, I am becoming more and more optimistic every day because I am seeing more dots start to appear that have not been on the board before. And they may have been underground, they may have been building steam, but all of a sudden they're coming up. And I can now connect the good dots and go, look at what's happening. And it ain't us doing it.
You gotta
I think it's God.
You got to hope, and people like Rahm Emanuel, anybody else that has just been kind of like following along with this whole social justice, tilt that we've been doing over the last few years, they actually listen to the last little bit of Jussie Smollett's, statement after he was after the charges were dropped. Mm-hmm. The way he closed that out with, he started off with saying, yeah, completely exonerated, didn't do anything wrong, been telling you all the time, this is a horrible time in my life. But he closes it with saying, but I will continue to do things to work for marginalized people. Mm-hmm. So basically, I was innocent of this, but I'm going to keep on trucking and doing what I've been doing. So just extrapolate that. I'm going to continue to make crap up and do things like this, these media spectacles, and keep charging in this way. And everyone else heard that. I don't think I'm the only one that took that from that. They're like, are you serious? So this is the way you're going to play the game. I'm out.
There have been grotesque moments. At points, it's like the Uncanny Valley. Do you know what the Uncanny Valley is? Uncanny Valley is something that animators and artists look at for animation. It's why when you look at like Pixar films, they'll do things and they will not try to make a child look like a child. They'll make the child with really big eyes, okay? Because the more you try to make it look human, there's something inside of you that is called the Uncanny Valley. As it gets become more and more human, people like it, until it gets to look too human, and then all of a sudden it nosedives and people are creeped out by it. That's just creepy.
Totally true, though.
It is.
Yeah.
It's called the Uncanny Valley. They're trying to figure out, Can they make that thing turn back around and make animation, make artificial life look like something that we embrace? That's why all robots, like that little robot that came out that they just retired recently, that was like, hi kids, I can teach you math. And it didn't look like human because of the Uncanny Valley. The same thing is happening here. Kavanaugh, we had Me Too, Me Too, Me Too. And then that moment where it was grotesque.
The Avenatti moment, if you will.
Yeah, the Avenatti moment. Avenatti is another one. It's all of these things. There's something about the Jussie Smollett case that we've seen this story over and over and over again, but this one, and I think it's just a step too far, where he went on ABC and he said, I didn't do it. And that was grotesque.
And Kavanaugh, I think there was a lot of women that were like, and mothers, that were like, wait a minute, like I can totally see someone accusing my son of this.
It's just a little too far. And what people embrace, Uncanny Valley, becomes grotesque. And so that's their arrogance. Jussie Smollett, I believe, would not have had this problem if he wouldn't have gone on ABC that one last time. It wouldn't have been so bad. And then I don't think he would have had the ire of everyone. He could have walked away from this if yesterday he said, look, I'm really sorry that this event happened, that we've had many misunderstandings, and I just want to do what's right, and I'll do community service. He could have had people on his side. Wouldn't have had us, but he could have had people on his side. But because he went that extra step, it became grotesque and repulsive.
You can see that in the Rahm Emanuel comments, right? Yeah. I mean, the fact Rahm Emanuel is no conservative.
Nope.
He's not going to come out there and be that public and visceral about his support for the police without 100% knowing that Smollett did this, right? Like, he's seen the evidence, he knows the truth here, and he's not going to come out and do that without that sort of backing, because he would look terrible in this sense. And if it was a conservative who did it, he probably would risk it, whether it was true or not. This is a situation where he's going against his own side, essentially, to try to push back. And, to your point, Glenn, of this, maybe we've hit that point of the Uncanny Valley. It's going to be interesting because this is only going to get worse for the Democrats. Oh, yeah. They are in the middle of a campaign where they all are fighting to get to the left of each other. There's a report this morning that I heard that they are now, they were talking about expanding the size of the Supreme Court. They are now talking about expanding the size of the House to get more seats in California.
Oh my God.
Like, they just can't stop themselves.
So here's the craziest thing, though. They don't realize that they have crossed that bridge, that they were at the peak. Hold. It's what they've just said to Barack Obama, that you are a failure. Barack Obama went in for a closed-door meeting with the freshman congressman, and they rejected him. And he was saying, look, I agree with your agenda, just stop doing it this way, because you're gonna screw it all up. They said you were a failure as a president, okay? What they didn't realize is that people are compassionate. Americans are smart. They don't like racism. And so as they built all these things up, sexism, racism, and everything else, there was a point to where we were all like, yeah, you know what? Me too. I agree with that. I agree with that. And then it got more and more bizarre and more. And then it's just that one event that will start turning it around. And we're hitting those moments where they're starting to turn, and they are doomed if they keep going.
All right. Don't send your kids to college when we return.
I think that with the Kavanaugh thing was the Avenatti. He's like, gang rape every day, at high school, we swear. It was like so ridiculous.
You know what I mean?
Before we get back into the conversation, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. Glenn, I know you've had a lot of luck with Relief Factor.
I have. There have been times when I like to handwrite things, and
I just saw a bunch of handwriting on this paper here.
Today,
I was impressed. I thought about that.
I've told you guys before, I'm not able to write anything more than a page anymore. This is just from this morning.
Yeah.
My hands cannot. I just can't take the pain. I can't hold the pen long enough. This is because of Relief Factor. So I highly recommend it. Try it. 70% of the people who try it, it works. It works for me. Try it. Get your life back. ReliefFactor.com.
All right, Stu, you said don't send your kids to college.
Yes, I'm big on this kick and have been for a while. We had a guest on today, Bridgette Fetes was on with us on radio, and she wrote, she's great, and she wrote a great piece about this, kind of the same thing. She kind of like what her speech would be at the end of high school to a group of kids that she'll never be able to make, because basically telling them, stop wasting your money on college. Here's a clip of it, which I loved. What will happen when you're going to college? Well, you'll learn to indulge your feelings and believe that everyone else is responsible for them. You'll come to expect trigger warnings and safe spaces and everyone handling you with kid gloves. Basically, you won't learn much about life. It's all the freedom of adulthood with none of the responsibilities or consequences. Of course, that's what kids like about it, right? I mean, the idea that they can go and just screw off most of the time and not have to deal with any realities in the world. You excise out of your life a great opportunity, though, which is a 4-year head start. I mean, when you don't go to college and you know where you want to go in life, you're able to do that for 4 years while all of your competitors are in college, and you're younger than them and you're learning. And when you get out, they have some book education and you have, a real world experience. And some people will bring up, like, well, what if I don't know what I want to do? I go into college to find myself. Find something that doesn't cost you $25,000 a year to find yourself. I mean, in all seriousness, even if you do nothing, you just like bounce around and work an odd job and wind up just living and not getting into debt, it's a better idea. Go to college after you found yourself. Because
when I went to college when I was 30.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And the kids that were in the undergrad classes with me, they didn't give a flying crap. They didn't care. They just took it because they thought it would be easy, or they thought whatever, and that's why they took that class.
Yeah.
And I wanted it. And I really, when we were talking to her today, I thought to myself, you would learn more, and I mean this sincerely, you would learn more scrubbing toilets and scrubbing bathroom floors for a year than you would in 4 years of college, because you would learn the things that college will never teach you. Love and do the best at any job. There is no job that's too low for you, and you're humble.
Yeah.
You learn those things. The best college might be scrubbing toilets for a year.
Yeah, I mean, it's become sort of like this thing where you feel like you're not a good parent or something if you don't send your kids to college. And then you dump $100,000 into their education. And on the other side, they come out with many times very little to show for it. And you have to really sit back and say, what are these kids actually doing? I mean, it's sort of the generic sort of joke about college that you're going and you're partying and you're screwing off and you're not really learning. But the government has actually done studies on this, and they're amazing. And I can tell you the story in this wonderful pizza-based chart. Because if you're going to talk college, you should talk pizza. So if you see the slices, this is an actual day of the average college student in the United States of America. You see the 0.7 hours, that's grooming, okay? You're grooming for 0.7 hours. 1.5 hours spent traveling to and from class. 2.4 hours is other. So I don't know, whatever that means. I'll give you the rest of them here. You'll see, I guess, what slides in there. Exactly. The big slice of pizza, the Jeffy slice of pizza there is 8.5 hours spent sleeping. Then you have 3.7 hours of leisure and sports. Next up is actual work, 2.9 hours, and 2.9 hours is working, and 3.3 hours is educational activities. 3.3 hours. So you're talking about $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a year to send the kids to college so that they work 3 hours a day on schoolwork. And remember, about half of that year is marked off for vacations, for holidays, for weekends, and for the summer. So at the end of it, you're spending about 1.5 hours a day of actual schoolwork, and you're paying $100,000. Now, what could you do with that $100,000? You could buy half a home for your kid for $100,000 and let them fend for themselves. I don't recommend that either, because they're not going to learn anything from that. But the idea that college is really just an excuse to go and delay adulthood for a little bit longer, with specific exceptions like a doctor or an engineer or something like that. Unless you have a specific path, you really shouldn't even go. And I think people are coming around to that a little bit. If you read Brian Kaplan's book, The Case Against Education, and you can lay that all out. Bridget's piece is great as well. There's a little bit of an awakening. Mike Rowe has done a lot of work on this front, I think, as well. But it really is something that you should consider. It's locking people in for jobs when they not everyone should be going to college for the jobs they want to do.
John Mulaney makes one of the best cases ever. You know what John Mulaney is? He was a writer for Saturday Night Live. He's hysterical. He's one of my favorite new comedians. And he talks about, I spent $100,000 to major in English, a language I already spoke. And he said, and then they had the balls to write to me, hello, alumni. It's been a while since you've sent us money.
Yeah, amazing.
And he's like, wait a minute. I paid you $100,000. I got nothing of reality out of it. I mean, I was drunk most of the time. I was hooking up most of the time. I paid you $100,000. Now you want to guilt me into giving you more? It's almost a cult. It's almost a cult.
Colleges I think they're absolutely screwed. I think there's a lot of people like Elon Musk has said at Tesla and at SpaceX, he doesn't even require a degree anymore. He's like, if you can show that you're competent to do it,
Facebook doesn't.
A lot of the stuff you can do online. You can figure this stuff out online. It's absolutely ridiculous. College educations and healthcare are two of the only industries where the prices are going exponentially higher, while because of technology and advances, everything else, prices are going lower. Why is that? Because we have state schools. Those state schools get money from the government, and then it screws with the price. So why should a private school, they have to compete? Why should they even lower their prices when the price is already underwritten for the state school? So they can keep that money high, and they're getting millions, billions of dollars in endowments. They don't even have to charge those high prices. No. But why should they lower them? They're already going to get that money, that check.
I have so much respect for MIT. MIT, you want to really go and work, be a rocket scientist. You want to work at Google, and you want to be able to keep up. You really have to go to a school like MIT. I mean, if you really want to be one of the top people, okay? MIT, you could take every single class online for free. For free. Why do I need the certificate so that I went to MIT? I could learn it all online for free and not get the certificate. As long as I can do the gig, Google doesn't care. Google might even respect me a little bit more because I didn't pay the $200,000
and you worked for
to get
it,
that.
Right?
I worked for it.
You have teenage children.
Yes.
Do you know what you want to do?
We
with
just
them?
talked about this today on the air.
question,
Tanya and
Sarah.
I are, thank you for bringing it up. Pick up the scab
Sorry.
some more. Tanya and I are diametrically opposed on this. She still says, but you've got to have a diploma. And I keep telling her, no, you don't. Not in the future. If my son, he's going to be the first one to go. My two oldest daughters have a degree. What did that do for them?
Yeah.
So I know what it did to the bank account. I don't know what it did for them. My son is going to be the next one, and he is thinking about being a structural engineer or a nurse practitioner. Well, both of those you're going to have to go to college. So you have to prepare, if that's even a possibility. But the other thing is, he wants to possibly be a writer. He talks about a comedian. He talks about all kinds of different things. Okay, you don't need that. If you're going to be a doctor or a structural engineer, you're going to need that because somebody wants to know that that building's not going to fall over.
Yeah, that would be nice to know.
Yeah,
Right,
you're authorized to cut into me.
I mean, like my mom was a nurse and she went to nursing school.
It won't even be
Glenn, you are going to, is it Utah?
Utah, Salt Lake City. I'm doing a couple of theaters, and I'll do as many shows as they can possibly sell. I know the two that we already did are already sold out. And I think they've added 10 more showings. But this is such an important movie. I'm doing this on my own time, volunteer. I don't get any money for it. I just really feel that everybody needs to bring their teenage kids to the movie Unplanned. It opens this weekend. This is critical that people go see this movie. And it is noticed. It's in 1,000 theaters nationwide. It's rated R, but it's rated R for political reasons. I guarantee you, your kids will never waver on abortion. It is murder.
It's actually a good movie, too.
And it's a good movie.
Yeah.
And uplifting. Yeah. It's not, I mean,
Really?
it is. It's really uplifting. It's not a dirge.
And a true story.
Yeah.
All right, overtime starts next.